The knock at Sun's. The late summer sun sank behind the hills, spilling a molten orange glow across the wide Montana sky. The ranch stretched quiet in its evening stillness, broken only by the soft bawl of cattle and the creak of a weathered windmill. Dust clung to the hem of Clara Dawson's skirt as she trudged across the yard, her boots heavy with wear. The day had been long, too long. Fences mended, troughs filled, and horses shod, all done by her own hands. Her muscles ached, her palms were raw, and yet the work never ended. The ranch was too big for one woman, but she'd been too stubborn to sell. This land had been her father's, and then her husband's, before the fever took him 2 winters ago. Now it was just hers. Hers and the silence. She set the bucket down by the porch steps, brushing a strand of hair from her damp forehead. The weight of loneliness pressed down harder than the day's labor. She had grown used to it, she told herself. Used to eating alone, sleeping alone, waking to a house with no laughter. But sometimes, when the night stretched long and the wind whistled through the eaves, she wondered how much longer she could keep it up. That was when the knock came. It was soft at first, hesitant. Clara frowned, her hand hovering over the doorknob. She wasn't expecting anyone. The ranch sat 3 miles off the main road. Few travelers wandered this far unless they were lost or desperate. The knock came again, 2 small raps, uncertain but insistent. Clara opened the door. On her porch stood 2 little girls, no older than 7. They were identical, with long braids the color of wheat and big blue eyes that caught the last rays of sun. Dust streaked their pinafores, and their boots looked too big for their feet. For a moment, Clara simply blinked, wondering if fatigue had conjured them out of the twilight. "Evenin'," said the one on the left, her voice high but steady. "We came to see you," the other added quickly, as though afraid Clara might shut the door. Clara tilted her head, trying to make sense of them. "And who might you be?" The girls exchanged a glance, some silent twin language passing between them before the first spoke again. "I'm Elsie. This is Emmy." "We're twins," Emmy added with a proud little nod. "I gathered," Clara murmured, a faint smile tugging despite her confusion. "But what are you doing here all on your own? Where are your folks?" The girls straightened, their little hands clasped tightly together. Then, in perfect unison, they said the words that would change Clara's life forever. "We heard you wanted a hand on the ranch. Our papa loves you." Clara's mouth went dry. She stared at them, certain she'd misheard. Pardon? Your papa what?" Elsie, the bolder one, squared her shoulders. "Papa loves you. He don't say it out loud much, but we know. He talks about you when he thinks we're sleepin'." Emmy nodded earnestly. "And you need help. We seen you fixin' fences all by yourself. Papa says no one works harder than you, but it ain't right for you to do it alone." Clara's chest tightened. She stepped back, gripping the doorframe for balance. "Girls, I think you might be mistaken." But they weren't mistaken. Clara knew, even before they spoke the next words, exactly who their papa was. John Mercer. The thought of him was like a stone dropped into still water, rippling through her. Tall, quiet John Mercer, the widower who lived a mile east, raising his twin daughters after his wife died, bringing them into the world. He had helped her once, months ago, when a steer broke through her fence line. He'd roped it quick, eyes steady, words few, before tipping his hat and riding home. She remembered the way his gaze had lingered just a second longer than it should have, and how she'd felt the heat rise to her cheeks. But love. The word sat too big, too heavy. Clara knelt down to the twins' level, her voice soft but firm. "Sweethearts, you shouldn't be wanderin' out here without your papa knowin'. It's near dark." Emmy's lip trembled, but Elsie held her ground. "We had to. Papa won't say it. He's too shy. But if you let him help, you'll see." Clara swallowed hard, unsure whether to laugh or weep. The girls' earnest faces pierced something inside her she'd buried deep, a longing for warmth, for family, for laughter in these empty rooms. But she couldn't let hope take root. Not now. She stood, folding her arms to keep her hands from shaking. "All right. Let's get you home before your papa thinks you've gone missin'. We'll sort out this talk later." The girls' faces fell, but they obeyed. Clara saddled her old mare, letting the twins ride in front of her. Their chatter filled the quiet night, giggles and whispers drifting on the breeze. Clara listened, her heart aching with every sound, realizing just how long it had been since she'd heard children's laughter on her land. By the time they reached the Mercer place, lantern light glowed from the porch. John stood there, tall and broad-shouldered, worry etched across his features. When he saw the girls, his relief was swift, followed by a scolding. "Elsie, Emmy, what in God's name?" His voice broke off as he caught sight of Clara behind them. His eyes widened, and something unspoken flickered between them. Clara slid down, lifting the twins to the ground. She met John's gaze evenly, though her pulse hammered. "Found these two knockin' on my door. Said they had something to tell me." John's jaw worked, his hands tightening into fists at his sides. "Girls. Inside. Now." "But Papa," Elsie started, but one look from him sent them scampering indoors, casting guilty glances over their shoulders. Silence fell, thick and charged. The night air hummed with crickets, the scent of sage sharp around them. John cleared his throat, his voice low. "They didn't trouble you too much, I hope." Clara's lips curved faintly, though her heart thudded. "Only with their honesty." He shifted, clearly uncomfortable. His hat brim shadowed his eyes, but she could see the color rising in his cheeks. "Clara, I'm sorry. They get notions. I never meant." She raised a hand, stopping him. "John, don't apologize. They meant well. And maybe they're right. I can't keep the ranch runnin' alone forever." Her words hung in the air, startling even her. John's gaze lifted, steady at last, searching hers. "Then let me help." Clara's breath caught. The twins' words echoed in her mind. "Our papa loves you." And for the first time in 2 long years, Clara wondered if maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to carry it all alone. The ranch finds its H. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, a ribbon of pink edging the horizon. Clara rose before the rooster crowed, as always, but her thoughts weren't on the chores. They circled instead on the night before, on 2 little girls knocking at her door, and on their father standing silent in the lantern glow, offering help with a quiet conviction that still echoed inside her. She told herself it was nonsense. She didn't need anyone. She'd survived 2 years on her own, hadn't she? Yet when she stepped outside, the yard felt emptier than usual. The creak of the barn door, the shuffle of hooves, the silence of the house behind her, it all seemed sharper, lonelier. By mid-morning, she heard hoofbeats. John Mercer rode up slow, his hat pulled low, the twins perched behind him. Clara's breath caught, though she forced her face into neutrality. "Mornin'," he called, voice steady but careful. "Mornin'," she replied, wiping her hands on her apron. The twins slid down, running straight to Clara with bright smiles. "We came to help," Emmy chirped. "We can carry feed buckets. Papa said so." Clara raised a brow at John. He looked sheepish but resolute. "I figured I'd best make good on what they started," he said. "If you'll have us." For a moment, Clara wanted to refuse. Pride rose up, sharp as ever. But the hope shining in the girl's eyes, and the steadiness in John's, softened her. She nodded. "All right. But don't think I'm talking charity." John shook his head. "Not charity. Work. Fair and square." And so it began. Life with help. The rhythm of the ranch shifted that day. John's strong hands made quick work of what had taken Clara hours. Together, they hauled hay, mended the south fence, and checked the herd. He was a man of few words, but his presence filled the silence with something solid, something safe. The twins trailed after Clara, eager to prove themselves. They carried eggs from the coop, helped sweep the porch, and even tried to milk the old cow, though their squeals and laughter sent more milk on the ground than into the pail. Clara found herself laughing with them, the sound foreign and startling in her own ears. At supper, John insisted they all eat together. Clara hesitated. Her table had been set for one for so long, but the twins were already climbing onto chairs, chattering about the day's adventures. John bowed his head before the meal, murmuring grace in his low, steady voice. Clara closed her eyes, her chest tightening with something she hadn't felt in years, belonging. The test. Weeks passed in a new rhythm. The work was still hard, but lighter somehow with 4 extra hands. Clara found herself looking forward to the sound of hoofbeats in the morning, to the quiet strength John brought, to the giggles of the twins. But the ranch, as always, demanded its due. It was during the first storm of autumn. The wind howled across the plains, rattling windows and tearing branches from trees. Lightning split the sky, sending the cattle into a frenzy. Clara and John raced out into the storm, rain lashing their faces. A steer had broken from the pen, charging wild toward the creek swollen with floodwater. Clara spurred her mare hard, shouting over the thunder. John was right behind her, rope in hand. The steer bucked and fought, hooves churning mud, but John's lasso flew true. With practiced strength, he hauled the beast back, bracing against its weight. Clara leapt down, helping him drive it toward safer ground. For a breathless moment, they stood side by side in the rain, drenched and panting, the storm raging around them. John's hand brushed hers as he steadied the rope. Their eyes met, lightning flashing, thunder rolling, and Clara felt it like a strike in her chest. When the steer was penned at last, they staggered back to the barn. The twins rushed to meet them, eyes wide with fear. "Papa! Miss Clara!" Elsie cried. "We thought you'd be swept away." John knelt, pulling them close. "We're all right. Thanks to Clara here." Clara shook her head, pushing wet hair from her face. "We did it together." John's gaze lingered, heavy with unspoken words. Under the stars. The storm passed by midnight, leaving the sky clear and sharp. Clara stepped onto her porch, the scent of wet earth rich in the air. She wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, staring at the stars that burned brighter after the storm. Footsteps sounded. John joined her quietly, his hat in his hands. For a moment, they stood in silence, the night alive with crickets and the soft low of cattle. Finally, John spoke. "Clara, I owe you an apology. For the girls. For their boldness." She smiled faintly. "Don't. They only said what you wouldn't." His breath caught, and he looked down, scuffing the porch with his boot. "Truth is, they weren't wrong. I've admired you a long time. The way you fight to keep this place, the way you carry on when most would have given up. You're strong, Clara. Stronger than I'll ever be." Her heart pounded. For so long, she'd buried hope under work, under grief, under pride. But standing there, with a man who had carried his own share of loss, who had shown her what it meant to be steady and true, she let herself feel it. "John," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I don't need a hand on the ranch. I need a partner. Someone to share the load. Someone to share the quiet nights." He lifted his gaze, the stars reflected in his eyes. Slowly, he reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. From the doorway, 2 small voices piped up. "We told you so." Clara and John turned to see the twins peeking out, grinning wide. Laughter bubbled between them, rich and unrestrained. Clara drew the girls close, John's arm wrapping around them all. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty. It felt like home. And under the endless Montana sky, Clara Dawson knew the ranch had finally found its heart.